the masses of our people, will never run away from our people. The Secretary-General will never run away from you. Is not here, comrades, because he respects the regulations. We're here respecting the regulations. That's why we're here to request you to observe the social distance. Comrades can be able to go to their provinces, their regions, their branches, their constituencies. Thank you very much, comrades. We highly appreciate your discipline. We will also come back to come and support the Secretary-General of the ANC on the 11th of August this year, 2021. We'll also, comrades, some of us will even go to Cape Town and go and support Comrade Bongo. Comrades, next week we are going to go to KZN in Pietermaritzburg and go and support the former President Zuma. We are not going to run away, comrades. We are going to be on the road. But what we know at the end, the South Africa is a British satellite because we are still under Britain. We will liberate ourselves under the leadership of Britain in this country because we are still a British satellite. Comrades who are here, as you go back to your constituencies, connect with your own constituencies, make sure that we are strong all over the country in order to liberate this country as a British satellite. That is the agenda, comrades, as we move forward. In those few words, thank you very much for coming. Program Director, the reverends, comrades from provinces, all provinces, who are leading this process. Thank you very much for coming. Siyabulela kakhulu. We said you must be here, observe the regulations, even the members of the media. Thank you very much. You must be able to report that we have observed the regulations. We have thanked the comrades who are here. We have requested them to go back to provinces, including the comrades who are part of the NEC who are here, the leadership of the MKMVA led by Comrade Ukepi, and no Comrade Ukal, the leadership of COSAS, the SG of COSAS, the leadership of the Youth League is here, the leadership of Sango is here, the workers, they are here, the leadership of COSATU. The comrades from the Communist Party, they are also here. We are happy that comrades of SASCO, they are also here. We have received message even from international organizations. Thank you, comrades, for coming. Thank you very much, our program directors.
All right, there you go. Andile Lungisa, the Mzwa, you wanted to listen in there. I think it was important to get that take as well, put into context in terms of the amount of support that Mr. Magashule is getting. But not only him, you heard their support for, as he mentioned, Comrade Bongo, as well as the former President Jacob Zuma. Your take, Mzwa?
Well, Plain, I kept on saying you can see there's realignment that is happening. So we know that Andile Lungisa has always been aligned with people like Ace Magashule, and of course he's a very staunch supporter of former President Jacob Zuma. And when you hear what he basically said, he is saying in his own words, this is a member of the ANC. This is he's very senior, obviously, having come through the ranks of the Youth League. Yes, he may still be young, but he's very senior in terms of the experience. He is saying South Africa is still a British satellite. They have to liberate themselves from the British, basically. So if the members of the governing party are able to say that in public. So the president of the country currently is the president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa. So is he saying the current president is taking directives from the British? So you can see, I mean, all that we've been saying, yes, we understand there's a legal case right now. But the legal case is really being used to really launch a serious political offensive in terms of recapturing or taking over the ANC come 2022. So you will hear the statements of other people before Ace Magashule or even Ace himself when he speaks. So that will really tell you where we're going with this. And I said to you, the gatherings that are coming, particularly the NGC, will be a great barometer.
Levindo, you initially, earlier on, said that factionalism is entrenched in the ANC. having seen the support there that is being given to Ace Magashule, and then you heard Andile Lungisa pledging support to Comrade Bongo says that he's pledging support to the former president, Jacob Zuma. When you talk about factionalism, are you seeing it as a split down the middle? How do you see it?
Well, I see this as a split down the middle. But for me, it is informed by a number of factors. But the main factor being that there is a group within the ANC that is organizing itself behind ANC leaders who are facing criminal charges in court. And as you heard from Andile Lungisa, they are going to provide support for former President Zuma. They are also going to provide support to Mr. Bongo, and that is why they are providing support to Ace Magashule. So the ANC, for me, is saying here that those that are facing criminal charges, in the main corruption charges, they are going to be supported by this group called the RET. But also at the same time, these RET forces are arranging themselves in order to take over the leadership of the ANC, because there are certain elements within the ANC that are using state institutions in order to get rid of these people. But also at the same time, if one has to come to a question, I actually see a split within the party. Remember, when the ANC has been supportive of former President Zuma whilst he was in office, there were consequences when it came to the results. The support that you see in Mangaung today is the support of those that are supporting Ace Magashule against his corruption cases. But there are also ordinary citizens in South Africa who have always been voting for the ANC. And these people will actually be saying now that enough is enough. I cannot continue voting for a party that will boldly go out and support people that are facing criminal charges. If you have, you look at the developments at the Zondo Commission, and you get the response of ordinary citizens on the ground, some are actually saying that enough is enough with this ANC that is very much supportive of its leaders that are facing criminal charges. And I would expect the ANC to do the same in support of all their other members when they are also facing other incidents apart from criminal cases. And unfortunately, that has not been the case.
All right, let's bring in back into the conversation Abongile Dumako. He's been listening in to what's been transpiring in that stage behind him. What have you been hearing, Abongile, from your vantage point in terms of the big takeaways from the speeches there?
Basically, just in Andile Lungisa having addressed the crowds here, he actually came up with something that I think these thousands of supporters didn't expect. He says ANC Secretary-General Ace Magashule will no longer be addressing them due to COVID-19 regulations, saying that it would be uncalled for a leader in society to disobey regulations to the extent that he would address crowds that are even finding it difficult to observe social distancing. We understand then, though, from the media personnel of the ANC that Ace Magashule will talk to us as the media as the day progresses. We wait in anticipation then, Blake, to hear what he has to say about what transpired in court. We've been looking forward, I must say, to hearing what Magashule had to say, was out to say to these crowds, remembering that the fact that the last time he did quite a mouthful as to the fact that he will not step aside as the Secretary-General of the ANC unless the branches of the ANC order him to do so. It was these very branches, members of the branches then who were gathered here hoping to hear him speak, but unfortunately he won't be speaking. A prayer session did take place, reverends from the province saying that they are behind Ace Magashule. They are going to pray for him until the end of time. Some even going to an extent that he's saying he's the incoming president of the ANC. We wait and see if that will happen. We've also heard earlier on, Blaine, that there was some singing happening here. People saying that they want a special elective conference to actually see change happening in the leadership of the ANC. What does that mean? We wait and see. It will unfold. Remember, there's an NGC of the ANC coming. We don't know what might transpire there with regards to what is being said, which one would say is a tone of how the NGC will look like. So basically, Ace Magashule not going to address the crowds. As I'm talking to people now, beginning to disperse, going back to their respective provinces.
I'm interested to know, in terms of the initial reaction from the crowd when that was announced, that the SG will no longer be addressing them or will not be addressing them. What were their reactions?
Disappointed, written all over their faces, because they were waiting in anticipation to hear what their Secretary-General is going to say. Imagine having woken up early in the morning, driving to Bloemfontein to support Ace Magashule from Mpumalanga, from the Eastern Cape, from Gauteng, the Northwest, only to be told that he won't be talking to you. That did come as a bit of a surprise and a disappointment for the many people whom we've seen here, waiting to hear from Ace Magashule. Let me show you again, Blade, a different story altogether now, a totally different picture from what you saw a few minutes ago. Those thousands of people you'd think that they were not even here. There's those smaller Nyana ones that have been, that are left, also sort of beginning to disperse, which is a sign that now the day has come to an end. There isn't going to be that address that was much anticipated by these supporters of the ANC. I'm sure you can see that there's literally fewer people than what you've seen a few moments ago when you were crossing to us. That's basically what's happening right now. Literally everything has come to an end. We wait then if that what we've been told by the ANC communications personnel that Ace Magashule will be talking to us later on. If that does take place, we'll be sure to wait and hear how he feels and what he thinks of what has transpired in court today. We understand, of course, Blaine, that the court, the case has now been postponed to August, where he will be appearing again in court. Let me also add, Blaine, that Andile Lungisa is adamant, saying that they will go all out as ANC members to support their fellow former leaders and current leaders who are sort of on the wrong side of the law. We understand that Bongani Bongo, the former Minister of State Security, is actually in court as well in the Western Cape, and Lungisa says he's prepared to go there with other fellow members of the party to support him. Former President Jacob Zuma, also in Pietermaritzburg, will be appearing in court there. He says he'll be there. He's not deterred. He'll make sure that his leaders or his fellow comrades are being given the maximum support that they deserve. We wait and see if you'll be able to keep up with the stamina, but seemingly having been the bearer of the bad news that Ace Magashule won't be talking to this crowd, we wait and see if this message from him to continue to support ANC leaders, current and former, will find resonance within the ANC members across the country.
All right, Brother DeMarco, thank you very much indeed for your great reporting. As soon as you get that interview, come back to us and bring us that interview. We'll get you live as soon as we can. Let's take you back now bring in Mzondile Mbeche, our political editor here. Interesting developments, no doubt. Look, to be fair to Mr. Magashule, he didn't confirm that he was going to speak to the crowds that have gathered there to us. But now that it's confirmed that he's not going to address, what do you make of that?
Well, that's a very responsible thing to do under the current regulations. I mean, just imagine a member of the top six of the ANC disregarding the regulations, and then the next day the president who he sits with announcing that we have to observe those things. So it would have sent a very bad message, and I think that was the right thing that the Secretary-General of the ANC did. In fact, as you were saying, he didn't confirm that he was going to address those people. In fact, he basically said he was going to respect the COVID regulations. So he basically kept his word. So as for ordinary people, obviously they will be disappointed. But I think then the message will then drill, because we are still in a pandemic, Blaine. We can be talking about all these political situations, and we know that our scientists have actually warned that we are expecting a third wave around June, maybe starting in May, June, July, so depending on and how many people are catching it again. So it's the right thing to do, and I think it should be stressed. And I think it also sends the message to ordinary people to say, perhaps if you are told that you have to obey regulations to save yourselves, so you should do that. I wonder what sort of impact it will have in the next appearance if the current regulations are still in place.
Yeah, look, Mzwayi, the pain of the pandemic is all too real, isn't it? We've been experiencing that over the past year. Currently, there are over 46,000 active cases here in South Africa. By no means, although we have this vaccine, the first 80,000 doses in the country, by no means that the pandemic is gone. So important point indeed. I'm sorry, we've got a tweet. Living down, I'm going to come back to you shortly, but I just want to put up this tweet to read. It's directed at you, Mzwayi. It's from Pat, and it says, Mzondile, as you analyze, taking into consideration the support for Magashule, you must know that those are not the only ANC voice. Those of us who believe SG has a case to answer are respecting genuine processes. Those must await surprise at NGC. Your take with regards to this tweet from Pat, Mzwayi?
Well, there is something, Levi, that said earlier to say the ANC is split down the middle. So that basically confirms that yes, those that you are seeing are not the only people that perhaps support the SG. There are those who are vociferously opposed. In fact, in that very province, you remember that last time Magashule appeared, so you had two groupings. And those that are opposed to him held a press briefing yesterday to say they will support the regulations, so they will not be bringing in people. So it basically confirms, Blaine, that the ANC is really divided on this matter. And of course, that's why even when we talk about the NGC, we are not certain or definite. We are basically saying it will give us a clearer picture as to where we are going, because we know there are those who are opposed to him, and then of course there are those who are supporting him. So that tweet sums it up for me.
Living though we know the paramount importance of respecting the regulations, the COVID-19 regulations. We're going to go to Samkele Maseko. You see him on your screen. But Levi, I mean, when you look at how this will play out politically in terms of Ace Magashule not addressing the crowds there, what's your take on that? Levindo, you still with us? All right, let's...
Magashule is one is day. Bringing in crowds, yes, bringing in crowds in buses and taxis, it's a psychological game. It's only to show that Ace Magashule has got a lot of support, and to show that he has got, even though he's facing this difficult moment, he needs to just go there, leave the masses alone, but he knows that he has actually won the psychological game. But what is very important for me is that the ANC should be able to manage situations like this one, because if they allow these kind of situations to get out of hand, then the ANC would find itself in a more serious situation where it cannot be able to address or lead its own people based on their expectations.
All right, Levindo, political analyst, we thank you very much indeed, sir, for your perspective. Be well. God bless to you and your family. Let's bring in now Samkele Maseko, man on the ground, following developments there with regards to this announcement that Ace Magashule will no longer or will not be addressing the crowd. I pause when I say no longer, because Samkele, you asked him the question whether he's going to be addressing the crowd, and he said he didn't give us an indication whether he was going to address the crowd or not. So I guess it's wrong for me to say no longer. But this development, how do you see this playing out?
Essentially what you see here, Blaine, is that Ace Magashule, essentially after seeing that they are indeed breaking lockdown regulations prohibiting political gatherings in the country, you look at how government through law enforcement agencies swiftly put barbed wire across all streets leading to the Bloemfontein Magistrate Court, preventing the truck which would effectively have Ace Magashule on that particular podium addressing those supporters from gathering near the Magistrate Court place that government wants to strictly enforce that no political gathering must take place. when we posed the question to Ace Magashule, he simply said that he will abide by the disaster management regulations placed by government of no political gatherings, and he will not be going to any super spreader, and he will not be speaking at any of these particular events. He did not give a clear distinctive answer or yes or no on that particular aspect. He just said that he won't break those regulations. We did pose the question also to Pulemabe, who said that and members of the ANC and supporters came on their individual capacity here, but essentially what happened is that Ace Magashule is also on the back foot, placed in a corner within the African National Congress politically, is trying to avoid having more charges placed at his doorstep, particularly seeing that he's now charged, and several other indictments have been added to the indictment sheet that he will be facing once this particular matter goes to trial in August, and does not want to further endanger his political ambitions within the African National Congress. You did see various ANC members chanting here in their thousands that Ace Magashule for president. I earlier on tweeted a particular video playing of Ace Magashule showing himself outside of the sunroof of a particular vehicle, a German machine that was driving across the streets of Bloemfontein and parading himself to the magnitudes of the masses that had gathered here pretty much like a king, which tells you that those supporters are adoring Ace Magashule. But COVID-19 regulations, even in that particular parade, were not being observed, and there was no social distancing, which tells you of the magnitude of how the coronavirus could spread in its magnitudes in these particular political party gatherings.
So we know that this matter has now been transferred to the Free State High Court. The next date is the 11th of August for pre-trial proceedings. So what next? We do expect that the ANC Secretary-General, we hope that he will talk to us. Abongile Dumak gave us an indication earlier on. But from where you standing, Samkele, is that it for the day?
What we do know is that there may be a press conference that may be organized by the various leaders of the National Executive Committee who are gathered here. I do know that currently they are in a briefing session with the Secretary-General of the African National Congress. That would be the likes of the Women's League President Bathabile Dlamini, Dakota Lekwete, Lindy Wenchalinchali, the Acting Provincial Secretary of Mpumalanga. I do know that Andile Lungisa from the Eastern Cape, the former MMC of Infrastructure in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro and former regional chairperson of that particular region, he's also here. And he's also asking and pleading with ANC members here to go and support former President Jacob Zuma next week on the 23rd of February when he goes to the Pietermaritzburg High Court for his own trial of fraud, corruption and money laundering relating to the arms deal. So we may hear from Ace Magashule later on if that press briefing is convened by the likes of Andile Lungisa, the likes of Supra Muhamapelo, the former provincial chairperson of the Northwest Province, Bokoni Bupirima, and the likes of Mzwandile Masina, the Ekuruleni regional chairperson, who are all here, and the ANC spokesperson Pulemabe, who many people are asking if Pulemabe is now the personal spokesperson of Elias Tshobela Magashule.
Mzwandile, you heard Samkele talking about those that have turned out to support the ANC Secretary-General Ace Magashule. In terms of the optics and the message that conveys to the greater public, what's your take on that? What's your read on that?
Well, the message really is simple and clear, plain. The message is that as much as Ace Magashule is facing the court proceedings, but he will not go down without a fight. In fact, if need be, he will have to put a very strong political campaign or fight together with those who support him to reclaim the ANC. In fact, in his own words, remember in Pietermaritzburg, a few months after the new president had been elected, when he said, "Don't worry, comrade, it's only for a few years, only 5 years." So when you look at the optics of what is happening, you look at the NGC, you think of Polokwane, so you can see that the stage is being set now for what is to happen, particularly 2022.
Mzwandile Mbeche, we thank you very much indeed, sir, for your perspective. We'll also let go Samkele Maseko. They're live for us in the Free State. Thank you, gentlemen, for your take on this matter. We had Samkele, we had Palesa, we had Apumalele, we had Abungile, and a phalanx of video journalists present at court today, getting you all the angles with regards to this story, and we thank them very much indeed for their good work. One of our questions of the day we're asking you today is with regards to what transpired in court and the latest developments with regards to the case against Mr. Ace Magashule. What's your thoughts on the matter? At the agenda_SABC is where we're at. We've got, they're coming in thick and fast, I'm told. Let's put it